Welcome back to the Balance Patch Cup, dated 11/23/2025. I'm Anthony Londigan, here with my host, with the most, Keon Sion.
Hello, everybody. We are back with round number 5. We are going to be seeing Kaige versus Vincenzo.
Vinny C.
Vinny C.
Top 8 Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
We got all sorts of names over here in New England, but let's start with Kaige.
Too many names and too many heads.
We love all the heads over here.
Truth.
Especially this crazy team with Tyranitar, Excadrill, Basculegion, Volcarona, Dragonite, and Mousehold. A lot of good offense here and a lot of really strong support tools.
Yeah, the defense on this is kind of crazy. You have a lot of redirect. You have Super Fang Mousehold to just chunk a lot of stuff. Especially, like, you have Quiver Dance Volk, you have Dragonite. You have a lot. You have a lot of crazy good offense here, especially if you want to set up.
Yeah, you're not going to find a lot of times where you're able to launch off those strong special moves against something like a multi-scale Dragonite, a Quivered Up Volk, or a Tyranitar with that Assault Vest and the Sand Boost. Even with that Mousehold's Friend Guard, it's going to be a really tough to break offense here, as we see Vincenzo's team might just have what it takes, because this is a man with a good team with especially a lot of experience. So let's take a look at what he's trusted ever since his top 8 run at Pittsburgh this season.
Very good stuff. Classic double dance stuff. We do see Fake Out, No Protect Coaching Sneasler. That was a thing before it fell off a little bit, but Vinny has it back. It's definitely really good for this Gambit as well. Gambit having Swords Dance, a lot of physical, natural bulk, especially paired with this Electabuzz too. And we do see this Dragonite, obviously, with Haze. No Tailwind again. 2 Dragonites in a row with no Tailwind.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me, as I think between both of these teams, the Dragonites on both, at least Kaige has the option of the Tailwind for more of that explicit speed control, but without anything like that Unburden on the Sneasler, opting instead for coaching for consistent damage, you're really only going to see some of that slow build speed pressure with the Quiver Dance and the Scale Shot. Not even opting for the Electro Web on the Electabuzz, instead going for consistent marginal damage that definitely builds up in the Thunderbolt on the Electabuzz.
Definitely. And Vinny obviously has the same redirecting options that Kaige does, except this Electabuzz isn't doing as much damage and preventing as much damage as his Mousehold does. But with that Friend Guard ability, this Tyranitar is going to be a monster to take care of with high physical defense and that Assault Vest plus the Sand Boost. This is one bulky team that Vinny has, and I don't think it's even on purpose. This is just a Sand Mode plus Mousehold and, like, good stuff. This is a scary, bulky team.
Yeah, I think looking at Vinny's team, Tyranitar certainly matches up well into it if you can find a way to get around that Sneasler, and something like the Scale Shot Dragonite, as well as the Basculegion, and honestly all of these Pokemon can, if they clear the Sneasler, the Tyranitar is just going to go flying. But as we see the leads,
go flying. I get it. Terra flying, by the way.
We see the Sneasler and the Dragonite lead against Kaige's Excadrill and Basculegion.
This is a nice little pin that we have here. Obviously, this Basque outspeeds both this Dragonite and the Sneasler, but Excadrill doesn't. So if Basque, oh hey, I want to swap out, you can flip turn into the something like the Dragonite to break its multi-scale, or the Sneasler to break its Sash, and you can just swap into T-Tar, and then go, oh hey, now my Excadrill outspeeds you because my dynamic speed.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because we just see it. The
Damn.
flip turn comes out,
Yeah.
no fake out stopping the Excadrill from Vincenzo's side, as you get the free pivot in to the Tyranitar to outspeed both of these Pokemon with that Excadrill. As we see the Sand get set up, the multi-scale is already broken on the Dragonite, but it's certainly not coming back now with the high horsepower.
High horsepower coming out into that Sneasler. Sand's up. It's going to break Sash and KO the Sneasler.
Yeah, there's not really much the Sneasler can go for here. Its last stand in this turn 1 is getting a coaching off onto the Dragonite, supporting it to see how much damage it can do for the rest of this match as it launches a +1 Scale Shot.
Connects, and wow, that does a lot of damage into that Tyranitar.
Yeah, the +1 boost is really, really helpful for Vincenzo here because with the Sneasler going down, it still does its job in getting significant damage down onto the Tyranitar before it goes.
A crucial part about Caige's plan, this Excadrill's sash is still intact, and Sneasler does go down, and that's a huge threat down for this Tyranitar, Sneasler, and like a few other parts of Caige's team like that Volcarona. And now Kaige is just free to do pretty much whatever.
Yeah, and while the Dragonite is theoretically well positioned into this Tyranitar now with the damage advantage and the speed advantage, the Sand Rush on the Excadrill means it's most certainly going to be faster and could maybe even KO the -1 defense Dragonite at this point. So there's a lot that Vinny needs to be mindful of in this mid game here, as trading damage on Tyranitar for a lost Sneasler and a chip down -1 defense Dragonite it's going to be tough to stop this Excadrill.
A cool part about that coaching play too, Vinny's essentially just at +1 attack with that Dragonite, because coaching's defense too, and then it just Scale Shot, and then it's just back in neutral. It's okay, buddy.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about the coaching there.
Scale Shot connecting again. Massive.
That is pretty massive.
This is massive.
The Tyranitar goes down there. The Dragonite getting the boost, and now it might be a bit more of a convoluted game to see who's going to move first this next turn, the Sand Rush Excadrill or the +2 speed Dragonite.
Yeah, this Sand Rush is really proving scary for Vinny's side. I think I don't think it really matters how this Excadrill's trained. I think it's just going to be able to outspeed this Dragonite.
Yeah, I think if there were some crazy case where the Excadrill's adamant, the Dragonite's jolly, and we see some interesting speed interaction there, but even then, I don't know what saves this Dragonite, because there's a potential Terra Fairy on the Volcarona, though you might not want to do that. It makes you much more open to the Rillaboom, which you want to stay preying on in this board.
Exactly. I can see if something like King Gambit was out, that would make more sense for Vinny. But Kaige opting to just attack this Dragonite and then set up with, I think that was the Terra Fairy on the Volcarona.
Yeah, that was a Terra Fairy. That's really interesting to me, because he is, regardless, going for the Iron Head into the Dragonite, and if you get that KO with the Iron Head, then the Terastallization will have essentially been all for naught.
Yeah,
so,
especially if trying to avoid the Scale Shot. I'm half-half on that play.
Please go.
Anyway, no, I don't mind the Terastallization, especially if something like King Gambit is in the back. But you are ultimately making yourself more vulnerable to this Rillaboom. And this Rillaboom actually does Terastallize.
I will say, yeah, the Rillaboom going for the Terra Fire, fearing the potential Heat Wave, and I think if this Iron Head gets the KO, going for an extreme speed, not even trying to skip.
That's a scary amount of damage too.
And
it lives!
It lives the double up. And the Iron Head
just and it knocks KO. Out! Dragonite is down!
Wow, so really, if Kaige had gone for something like the Heat Wave and maybe like a high okay, well, it wouldn't have done anything anyways, we missed.
Fine.
It's alright. We are now...
This is an interesting board state, because you have the Rillaboom pressure,
yeah,
and you can't get burned now. Flame Body is negligent.
Yeah, I mean, without Flame Body, you can continue to launch Grassy Glides into this Excadrill and make sure it gets out, but the King Gambit as the last Pokemon...
This is a scary board position for Kaige, though.
Yeah.
Because you have Sucker and Glide pressure, even if you wanted to just Wood Hammer.
Yeah, I think you get a pretty safe just like Sucker Punch into the Excadrill slot, leaving you free and clear to go for that Wood Hammer straight into the Volcarona. And while I think it may only come close to KOing, it's not a positive trade.
Yeah, I think that's very negative for Kaige. Even if something like, if Heat Wave comes out, I feel like one Protect from that King Gambit, I feel like is very, very bad. And Kaige might want to try and maneuver something around, try and get that Bask back on the board to just chip down that King Gambit to ensure that it goes down.
And we do see the Protect. baiting out the Sucker Punch as expected, and we'll see the Volcarona go for that Heat Wave.
Heat Wave comes out and does very good damage to that King Gambit.
Yeah. It's a relatively comfortable live for a super effective hit as the Woodhammer comes out
Oh.
and just barely lives.
Whew. So much damage coming out from this Rillaboom and this King Gambit slot. Prioritizing that the health on, I want to say that Rillaboom was very important for Vinny. I think that was a very good play from them by far. Obviously, this King Gambit can just launch stuff like Sucker Punch, especially since there's no redirect on the board. Obviously, there's protect potential, but this Rillaboom is just outputting so much damage from Vinny's side.
Yeah, I think the one thing Vinny has to be conscious about at this point is the amount of turns you have left with the grassy terrain, because I think being able to leverage the grassy glide in this endgame is super important, especially considering the Basculegion in the back. But if Kaige can find a way to get around those turns of terrain with these weakened Pokemon towards the end, I think the Basculegion can very much do something here, as we do see it potentially coming in on this turn.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is very scary. I don't see how Kaige breaks the double priority mons, but maybe this is a way around it with some mind games, but I still think this Excadrill goes down to Grassy Glide.
Yeah, this is an interesting play to me, because if you're expecting...
Oh,
okay.
wow. Grassy Glide does just KO this Excadrill.
That is pretty interesting to me. I would think the Sucker Punch would go there sooner, because
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you can pin down that Volk slot above all else. We see the Sandstorm ending, the HP being recovered from both of these Pokemon, as the grassy terrain is still intact.
Yeah, I think we have one more left. I think this is the last turn of Grassy Terrain, and Vinny's going to have to make this count.
Yeah, this is going to be a very close endgame here in this 2v2 situation. The Volcarona alive and kicking, and that's all that matters here, as
How would Volcarona kick?
it's got like little feet right there.
See, that's what
Yeah,
I said
Come
to
on.
bounce
Come on, it's
about
got,
wearing jeans.
That's a great point.
It always
I'm trying
comes
to look at
back.
the sprite right there. Yeah, it could wear
Yeah,
jeans.
it
Come
wears
on.
jeans. I think it could definitely pull out some very high-waisted jorts.
Yeah, it would certainly kick.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think it does during Quiver Dance?
Oh, good point.
Okay, we
Volcarona
see-
does
but
protect
it's
here.
protecting.
It protects
it's kicking
here.
its legs up in defense.
Get away from me. I do not want you. Grassy Glide does go out into that Volcarona. Do we see a Sucker Punch into this Basculegion, though?
I think we absolutely have to. Oh,
No!
and the Wave Crash!
The Wave Crash comes out from
Calling out a
Caige's
potential
side.
Aqua Jet, and it just gets the King Gambit. Kaige calls that turn perfectly.
Wow. Very good turn from Kaige. I think since this is the last turn of Grassy Terrain, that Grassy Glide is no longer active. Yeah.
Yeah, and with the grassy terrain gone, it's going to be really difficult for the Rillaboom to get to the Basculegion before it can just crash up on it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since you can't Grassy Glide. Yeah, battle's canceled. Vinny concedes game 1.
Yeah, and what was a really interesting war of attrition between what honestly was a masterclass in sand rushing all over the place.
Yeah, that's definitely a way to describe it. That was... I definitely think Kaige played very well with that Excadrill. And it's like, it doesn't really matter that T-Tar went down a little early, especially since, like, Dragonite is outspeeding it. The Sneasler is a huge problem for it. It was more so it was a very good positioning for that Basculegion.
Yeah, I think trading the damage on the Tyranitar early game for a clean KO on the Sneasler and making it so that the Excadrill would be uncontested as the faster Mon throughout the board was really strong, especially throwing out the scale shots like it's candy on Halloween, getting those Iron Heads into the -1 defense Dragonite, just clearing it from the board made things way easier for Kaige to just steamroll between the pressure of Excadrill and the Volcarona, who were just a little bit too tough to knock out from those big hits.
Yeah, that Iron Head especially, breaking that multi-scale early game was very, very good for Kaige, especially putting that -1 Dragonite down by trading your T-Tar. That was very, very well played by Kaige, and obviously well played by Vinny with that Terrafire Rillaboom. And it was that last turn came down, or sorry, second to last turn came down to very, very crazy mind games where it's like, do I Sucker Punch expecting an Aqua Jet that's going to KO my Rillaboom, or do I Kowtow Cleave expecting to live this incoming Wave Crash? But obviously that's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't really see like a clear-cut way you play that end game if you're Vinny. I think he made a call that just ended up not working out, but outside of that, the game was really close.
Yeah, that was a very good game.
So it'll be interesting to see how both of these players end up adapting their strategies, if they try and prioritize different KOs, work to sacrifice other pieces to advance their game plans. As we are getting right into this game 2 from Vinny, we see the Rillaboom and Sneasler on lead against Caige's, once again, the Basculegion and the Excadrill.
An interesting point to note out here is Vinny's Sneasler does not have acrobatics. It is not like Lele's acrobatics where it's like, oh, hey, I can actually acro glide you and now your Basculegion just gets KO'd. It's just the coaching CC Dire Claw set with Fake Out. So this Basculegion, it's kind of uncontested to flip turn and break the sash.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why Sneaslers have adapted so much more to the acrobatics set, is to have a more consistent early game into these Basculegions, but without it, you can just click that flip turn.
Big damage button.
Swap right into whatever you want. In this case, the
wow.
Volcarona, completely uncontested in terms of coverage here. It could take a Wood Hammer, it could take a Dire Claw. It's perfectly safe to come in right now, as the close combat from the Sneasler goes right into Excadrill's Protect.
What does Rillaboom do here? Woodhammer coming out into this Volcarona. There is a chance for Flame Body here.
Let's see, did we get it? Critical
crit?
hit. That's big damage.
No
Recoil.
burn, though. Interesting.
Yeah, no burn. I'd say that's about as good as that turn 1 could have gone.
Yeah.
Making sure your Tyranitar doesn't get caught with its sand down and get Woodhammered right at the beginning of that turn.
Yeah, that would have been a very scary swap for Kaige, just losing your Tyranitar turn 1. Yes, you get the sand, but you're not really KOing anything back on that turn, especially with Excadrill protecting it.
Yeah, knowing that you really don't have to sacrifice your Tyranitar again in this early game. You can just bring in your safe switch, maybe play a game or two with the potential Flame Body, knowing that nothing's really moved yet on this turn. But I guess we're in a bit of an interesting board right now where there's not a clear-cut play from either of these trainers to advance the board. They have many, many things they can do, and it's just up to them to see what it is the correct play. As the Sneasler swaps out, going instead.
I think this is Dragonite.
That is the Dragonite.
Wow, Dragonite's multi-scale is now broken thanks to that Iron Head.
That's a crazy damage for a multi-scale.
Yeah, I know, right?
I can't lie. As we see a Quiver Dance come out.
I think this was pretty uncontested.
Yeah, I mean, there really wasn't much you could do to threaten the damage on this except bring out that Dragonite, as the Woodhammer brings Excadrill down to focus us. But with such a high HP stat, you're taking a good amount of recoil there.
Yeah, that's a lot of recoil, especially with how pivotal this Rillaboom is supposed to be in this matchup. It's like this Volcarona is already set up at +1, and it's getting kind of scary already. Vinny doesn't have that speed control option that he is supposed to have. And this Dragonite, I believe Vinny's Dragonite does not have Tailwind, if I remember correctly. Yeah, there's no Tailwind on Vinny's Dragonite.
Just the Scale Shot and the Extreme Speed. The issue here for Kaige is that the right slot is kind of in deadlock. You can protect, I guess, but you can't just let it go and fall to something like an Extreme Speed or a Grassy Glide, and you certainly don't want to swap Basculegion or Tyranitar in to take that damage either, so you have to be really mindful of how you position around this pretty offensive board from Vinny.
Exactly, and I think Vinny knows that. I think Vinny understands, hey, you brought Excadrill, you probably have Tyranitar in the back, and I've already seen this Basculegion. I can pretty freely glide into whatever you have. And I think that's just a safe play.
Even after the Terrestrialization, you can go for a Woodhammer and just be perfectly covering into, even if the Tyranitar comes in, you're just getting a KO on that slot, whatever you do. But the Extreme Speed instead coming out into the Excadrill. As we see a plain Terra Blast with no Terrestrialization come out, do pretty good damage. The Woodhammer going into the Volcarona instead of something like that high horsepower.
This is an interesting trade here too, because with this Leftovers recovery, I'd assume that Extreme Speed could KO from here. But I feel like to be safe, Vinny obviously like targeted Excadrill saying, hey, I don't have to scale shot here. You're a Terra Fairy. I don't have to put myself into that 50-50 situation. But obviously, with this Terra Fairy now, you do have access to Terra Fairy Terra Blast, but you're also making yourself more vulnerable to this Rillaboom in terrain, which is 100% more scary.
Yeah, I think the Terra plus Terra Blast could be an interesting play, though I think you would much rather just stay unterrastalized, get the damage down, and keep the Volcarona positioned very well into that Rillaboom. But we see the Excadrill swap out this turn, saying, no, I don't want to go just yet. I need to be safe for that endgame into the Sneasler, as Tyranitar comes out instead.
Tyranitar hitting the board also sets up this Sandstorm. And, oh, we do see a terrestrialization from Kaige's side. This is the Volcarona going into Terra Fairy. And this is a scary position for Vinny's Dragonite. Not only are you not sped up with that scale shot, but you're now more vulnerable to this Woodhammer on Kaige's side. But Grassy Glide does go out and does over half to that Tyranitar.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Terra was pretty premature on Kaige's end, because what happens here is, yeah, you get the damage on the Dragonite, but you saw the Terra Blast damage last turn even without the terrestrialization. I think you wanted to stay the same old Firebug Volcarona for the exact Sneasler Rillaboom that you're going to see. And without that defensive profile against these Pokemon, they can kind of just reign however they want against the Volcarona now.
Yeah, I think Sneasler is definitely a weird pick in this situation, or not a weird pick. It's in a weird position in this state too. You don't have Unburden. If you did, it's not procced, especially because it's at half health. But you're also facing a +1 Volcarona. And Tyranitar, it's still susceptible to these glides. It doesn't have Protect, and it can't Terra.
Yeah, I mean, the Tyranitar's kind of left in a spot where, like, that slot's going down no matter what. It's either gonna go down as Tyranitar, swap to Excadrill and go down, or go to Basculegion and take way too much damage and probably potentially even go down as well.
Yeah, I think it might be in a 2-hit KO range.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't see a world where this Tyranitar or this Excadrill actually comes out and does any meaningful damage.
Yeah, I think preserving the Rillaboom here is really smart, because every single thing on this Pokemon in the endgame is just going to be weak to it. As Kingambit comes out instead, and the Fake Out goes out into the Tyranitar. Not
big Heat Wave coming out from Kaige, though, and
double
he gets a double
KO.
knockout!
Well, now I don't know what this Rillaboom's going to do in this 4v1.
Yeah, this is a very bad position for Vinny. It was a smart play preserving that Rillaboom, but Kingambit going down is even worse.
Yeah, I think Vinny was far too behind to go for such a passive play, like swapping out and faking out. I think you had to try and get some sort of advantage there, but of course with the grass disappearing, the Rillaboom didn't want to stay around past that turn anyways. It's pretty conflicting now. I don't think this Rillaboom is going to have what it takes to get through all 4 of these Pokemon.
Especially with the Sandrush Excadrill. Excadrill does have access to Protect, causing some mind games between this Volcarona and the Excadrill. But I do think this is a turn where we just see, Grassy Glide into the Volcarona. It does not pick up.
Yeah, I think if there's a way you get out of this, it's maybe a couple crits on the Grassy Glide, making sure that you can go a little bit quicker on and KO some more Mons a bit faster. But we see the Terra Blast and Knockoff double up.
Knockoff does KO.
Just getting
it's
there.
over.
And
GG's to Vinny and Kaige.
yeah, that was our round 5 matchup, and Kaige honestly played very well, understanding the importance of preserving all of those tools between all of the Pokemon that were susceptible to the Rillaboom's Grassy Glide, but just making sure that they were bulky enough to outlast throughout the turn, protecting on all of those extreme speeds, and just getting consistent damage out with the Volcarona. The Heat Waves were pretty hard to beat from Vinny's end.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with something like Sneasler that doesn't have access to like Grassy Seed Unburden, Acrobatics, or that Kingambit, which, oh hey, my Sucker Punches are now resisted by this Terra Fairy Kingambit. I'm kind of in a really bad position now that I can't just attack you because now I might get burned. And it's like, it's this weird cohesiveness with like, oh, my Terrafire Rillaboom isn't really taking much damage. It's dishing out a lot. It's not taking much back. I think I'm in a perfect scenario. But it's the partners that are around it that eventually crumbled. And especially like Vinny's Kingambit couldn't hold up.
It was really interesting to see the offensive synergy that the Volcarona and the Excadrill had throughout the set. It felt like they perfectly complemented each other, and that anything that could switch in was weak to one or the other. And while Kaige may not have had the best defensive coverage in all the games where the terrestrialization was spent, it didn't matter because the offense that was being sent out was just that much stronger that it forced Vinny to constantly play on the back foot.
Exactly, and I think that was perfectly shown in game 2, where Sandstorm. There we go. Sandstorm was not even set up for pretty much the entire battle, and Kaige was at Focus Sash for pretty much the entire time, and just causing these mind games and snowballing into like, oh, Dragonite's going down. My Sneaser's at half health. I forced Rillaboom to Terra, and now you can't really bring King Gambit in safely. You're causing all these mind games offensively that Vinny could not outspeed, especially with just one Quiver Dance. And I think it ultimately snowballed and allowed Kaige to win.
Yeah, I think that was a really well played set from both of our trainers. We're going to take a short break here. That was the last round of Swiss, and we are going to be proceeding into our top 8 cut very soon. We'll see you for that match.
Bye.